When my sons play wiffle ball with the other kids on our street, they play by a set of rules developed over the spring and summer months each year. An inning ends after 2 outs, not 3. 5 balls, not 4, makes a walk. And you're allowed to peg a runner with the ball to make an out. When our street plays against the rival team of kids from the other side of the neighborhood, a pretty serious pregame conference is required to determine the rules. Similarly, the game of baseball was played differently from one location to another in its earliest decades. That is, until printed, standardized rules spread across America with the explosion of print culture in the mid-19th century. My name is Patrick Hastings. I'm an education outreach specialist in the Rare Book and Special Collections Division, and I'd like to share with you some of the Library of Congress's oldest items related to baseball. As early as 1787, before the United States had even ratified the Constitution, the game of baseball appears in print. In this tiny little children's book, titled A Little Pretty Pocket Book, we find a few charming lines about baseball. The ball once struck off, away flies the boy, to the next destined post, and then home with joy. This book was printed in Worcester, Massachusetts, and the poem's reference to the batter running to a post instead of a base suggests that the ball game described is probably an early version of baseball that was called the Massachusetts game. Within the library's collections, we have an 1859 baseball guidebook that presents the codified rules of this version of baseball. These cheap, pocket-sized baseball guidebooks met the demands of an increasingly literate populace eager for accessible reading material. They also allowed the game to spread common, standardized rules to players across the country. From the pages of this 1859 guidebook, we learned that the Massachusetts game had a few key differences from the version of baseball that we know today. The infield was smaller and in the shape of a square around the batter. The bases were 4 wooden stakes or posts. A single out ended the inning. Fielders could peg a runner with the ball to get him out, and there was no foul territory, so batters could smack the ball in all directions. The Massachusetts game was an athletic, high-scoring sport with 100 runs required to win a match. The rules of the Massachusetts game vied for supremacy against a New York version of baseball played by what was called the Knickerbocker rules. In an 1866 illustration, we can see depictions of both versions of the game being played at Elysian Fields in Hoboken, New Jersey. The Massachusetts game on the left with its square infield, and on the right, Knickerbocker rules baseball, which was played on a diamond and is a precursor to the version of the game that we play today. Now, there were notable differences between the Knickerbocker rules and contemporary baseball. For example, you could record an out by catching a ball on the hop. And, most importantly, pitchers had to toss the ball underhand, kind of like slow-pitch softball. The batter even specified whether he wanted the ball to be delivered high or low, kind of like Little League coach pitch. This meant that the pitcher's job was essentially to facilitate the batter putting the ball in play. So, rather than a one-on-one matchup between the hitter and the pitcher, the central contest of early baseball pitted the batter against a team of fielders. In this way, the early decades of baseball may reflect the societal transitions of the mid-1800s. The lone batter may be a vestige of agrarian America's rugged individualism, while the team of fielders playing defined positions reflect the modern industrial economy's reliance on specialized labor and systems of collaboration. Plus, every player had the opportunity in each inning both to bat as an individual and to field alongside teammates. This two-tiered system created baseball's unusual focus on both collective and individual success. A team's wins and losses are recorded, sure, but so is each player's personal batting statistics. Baseball suited the dual interests of this transitional era in American history. Another key feature in the Knickerbocker rules was a foul line that extended down the first and third base lines into the outfield, creating a wide open outfield space while still establishing a boundary between fair and foul territory. This design had a few important benefits. First, An enclosed area of play required less field space and fewer fielders to play the game within cities. Another crucial benefit of the foul line was the creation of out-of-bounds space that was safe for the thousands of spectators and journalists who soon occupied foul territory behind home plate and all down the foul line to catch a view of the game. As early as 1862, Brooklyn was home to a defined baseball facility with a capacity of roughly 6,500 spectators. In 1866, an astounding 40,000 people watched a game between the Philadelphia Athletics and the Brooklyn Atlantics. Whether playing themselves or watching the game from the sidelines, Americans used baseball as a pastoral retreat from the industrial city. And because it was an untimed sport, an afternoon at the ball field was ungoverned by the clock that otherwise dominated the lives of factory workers and the modern economy. This natural appeal, combined with the wide print distribution of the game's standardized rules, transformed what was once a neighborhood game into a national pastime. Play ball.